Hello, hello. Welcome, one and all. Okay, so our stream is live. You're all very warmly welcome to our stream this evening. Today is the second edition streamed of this on this channel of the Brilliance Chess Academy Blitz matchups over here on lichess. And last time we had a real banger between Prince and then Bernard. Went all the way. In the end, Bernard managed to scooch out another victory. And today we have an equally exciting match to look forward to. So today's match is between Mr. Philip Ameku, who is one of the best players in the country, president of the Ghana Chess Association, currently rated number 6 in the country with a FIDE rating, I think, 1,880, thereabouts, versus Mr. Kwame Sekyere, another very, very strong player. Probably if you are fairly, relatively new to the chess scene in Ghana, you may have not heard his name, but if you've been around the block for a while, you definitely know who Kwame Sekyere is. He used to be one of the strongest players in the country. He did recently kind of fall off the grid a bit when it comes to chess, at least. Mainly, I think after he got married, other priorities, life happened. But he still remains very, very strong. He plays online regularly, and so he should still be a very, very strong competitor for Philip. When he was playing, I think he definitely was in the top 10 because even still, his inactive FIDE rating is rated like 11. So, yeah, he's also very strong, 1780 FIDE currently. And to give you an indication how close the match probably will be, in terms of their lead chess ratings, Sekyere actually has a higher rating. So currently his rating is in the 2000s, whereas Phillips is in the mid 1900s. Although to be fair, their maximum rating is still higher for Phillips. So I think Phillips' maximum rating is around 2160, whereas Mr. Sekyere has a maximum rating in the early 2100. So I mean, it's going to be a very close match. There's very little to choose in between these two players, and I guess it really depends on who comes into the day in better form. So we look forward to the game starting any minute now. I think they literally did just start. So we are going to start watching the games. Okay. So this should be the first game of the match. Time control, as always, is 3 minutes plus 2 seconds per move. In this first game, Philip is playing from the white side. We're going to flip over and view the game from his point of view. So he started the first game with another modest g3 setup, bishop g2, and then knight f3, and he's going to castle short. And then he played out d4. And Sekyere also set up in a similarly modest setup, but now the game has transposed into a normal Catalan. This is the main line in a Catalan, the closed Catalan. I used to play this myself as white, so I guess I'm fairly familiar with how things should go here. So Sekyere decided to put his queen here on c7. It kind of works into bishop f4 exactly, and then Philip plays just that. And then the queen now switches over to b6 to attack this weak b2 pawn. How do you defend that? So queen c2 I guess is fine. Rook b1 is okay. Queen d2 also makes sense. Any of these three moves probably fine. He goes for b3, which is also fine. Knight h5 to hit the bishop here on f4. The bishop maybe drops back to d2 or e3, or maybe goes up to e5. You can also just ignore that attack and leave the bishop there. Whenever you allow these double points, actually not always all that bad. You can actually get a very nice clamp on this square e5. But he comes all the way back to c1, I guess with the idea of going to b2 next with his bishop, which also seems like a fair idea. And I think another key component that will determine how this match will go will be their time management, because of course this is Blitz and time management is key. And so far in the first game, it seems Kwame Sekyere on the black side is doing better. I mean, he's already like 30 seconds up on the clock as black, which is quite impressive. And if he can get a significant time advantage in these games, that could be a very, very crucial component indeed. So we'll live to see how the game will continue. Philip decided to break out in the center with e4, which is what in general I want to do in many Catalans. But he hasn't quite completed development. This bishop still is on c1. The queen and the rook are still on their starting squares. Black also has the problem with this bishop on c8 to solve, which I'm not sure how he intends to do so. But he's played a6, which kind of telegraphs that he wants to play c5. You don't want to go c5 immediately if c5 is your plan, because you leave this b4 square, b5 square for the knights. So if you start with a6 to take away that square, you probably want to play c5 next. Philip goes bishop e3, hunting down that queen, threatening to push the queen, runs away to a5, hits the weak knight here on c3. Here maybe you go queen d3, because you really should start developing your queen. He went queen c2, the same idea. Oh, and then b5. Nice. So black is breaking out. Like I said, the bishop on c8 is really your only problem. And now he wants to put the bishop here on b6, b7. White also responded with the lash out in the center with d5, which is very interesting. I don't know if he's ready for the break is the problem. On the one hand, he opens up the board. This bishop, for example, is starting to look very dangerous. But on the other hand, you still haven't really completed development. So it could go either way. So there's a big trade here on d5 that has occurred. But out of it, black now has an isolated pawn here that white can hope to attack. And I think white maybe got a better out of all those trades. But he did have to sacrifice a pawn. So it remains to be seen as to whether this decision was the correct one. Fascinating first game here. If you are just joining, you are very warmly welcome. I can see a few of you in the chat. I will try to be a bit more interactive this time. So welcome to Valmo, Maxwell, Dennis. I see you all in the chat. This is the first game in the match. If you missed the intro, this is the match between Mr. Philip Ameku, BCA president, number 6 rated player in the country, and then Mr. Kwame Sekyere, former top 10 player, still rated number 11, although his rating is inactive. Slightly retired from competitive chess, but still very strong online. So yeah, we look forward to a very close match. Bishop e4 just played, hitting the rook on e1. The rook switched over to f1, and I guess now something like rook c8 to hit the queen. White had to sacrifice a pawn to get the board opened up. But after the board has been opened up, you can't really clearly see what compensation you got for the pawn. My guess would be the best thing for white to do here would be go for some sort of kingside attack. I mean, black's kingside doesn't look the most safe. But because apart from that, the bishop pair looks to cancel each other out on the black and white side. And you've got to see exactly what white got for this pawn that he's given up. I should also still point out that the clock continues to trend in the favor of Kwame Sekyere. So he's now almost 40 minutes up on 40 seconds up on the clock. And again, that really could prove to be important. Rook c8 was just played. I guess the queen, yeah, drops back to b1, which he just does. Now, how do you continue as black? Maybe you put your knight in here on e4. But you do have to worry about this knight on f5. It can be very dangerous in certain lines. Hello, Arish. Yeah, I do remember you, Arish. I definitely have not forgotten you. I saw you play a few tournaments recently as well. I hope your chess is going well. Hello to Mr. Sedem as well. Okay. So yeah, he did indeed put his knight here on e4. And now I'm not sure what to do as white. I think slowly white is starting to lose any compensation at all that he might have had for the pawn. Yeah, he's forced to take off the knight, and now the bishop pair belongs to black. Although you can argue this light square bishop is not the most active, and now he's managed to activate the rook, which could be very important. But I'm still not convinced that white has enough here. He still needs to manage to drum up a kingside attack. So here, I don't know, like a bishop c6. Yeah, that's on the board. Then the rook goes to a7, or he comes back. Maybe he goes to a7. Because coming back doesn't seem... There actually aren't a lot of squares here, so he goes to a7. And then... It's not obvious how you want to do this with either color. I mean, this game could still go either way. It's still quite complicated. The thing is, black skin could easily come under a very big attack with the knight, queen, and rook coordinating. So yeah, rook c7 I think is a very intelligent move. It trades off one of the attacking pieces, and now it seems a lot more controllable. So he plays queen b2, threatening checkmate on g7. Never too late to hang checkmate. I know that you go f6 here. Yeah, he just goes f6, shuts that down. The rook goes to d1. So white is still trying to prove some compensation for the pawn that he's given up. And he really has to, because if he doesn't, he might just be down material for nothing. Bishop d7. Yeah, and I must say, Kwame Sekyere is playing very well. he's maintained his time advantage, and now Philip is down to just seconds, less than 20 seconds. And I think he's gotten his pieces back in time to defend his king. And now I think it's clear that he's the more comfortable one, at least in this game. So that's an interesting game. Yeah, so he snapped off the knight on f5, brought the queen back, and again you are down a pawn as white, so you have to prove something, and you're also down a lot of time. The bishop came to d6, the queen is activated onto d4, bishop e5. There was a pawn hanging here. I'm not sure whether he could take. No, he couldn't take it. So the queen comes to c5. He couldn't take it because of bishop h2 check. So queen h5 is played. Now the game goes down to seconds, and literally anything could happen. But so okay, there's a pawn hanging, there's this check hanging. Okay, black has to be winning now. It's just a question of how. Yeah, queen h3 is probably the best move. Now here it goes there. Where does the king run to? The king runs back. I don't know. Do you want to take here? Exactly. Wow. Yeah, Kwame Sekyere is in very good form, I must say. Okay, so the queen is trying to create some counterplay. So rook g8 maybe is forced, exactly. But now you're threatening to win the guy's rook. So what to do? Oh no, just loses, right? Queen h1 wins the rook and it's game over. No, okay, it goes bishop g3, trying to attack f2, but the bishop holds f2, so you're not really threatening anything. You're just making sure the bishop cannot move. So that probably wasn't the best move. And now, yeah, still down to seconds, anything can happen. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on the rest of the match. But I think queen h1 at that point was just easily winning. Welcome, Odati. Oh, did he drop material? Yeah, he dropped a piece for nothing. And now somehow Philip is winning again. No, there was a pawn here. You could take the pawn. Somehow Philip is just winning again. And now he sacked material. Oh, and he's just checkmating. Wow. Okay, so that was quite a turnaround. Mr. Sekyere was completely winning. He had a game in the bag. He just had to finish it off. He was up material, up on time, up on position. But then he managed to tick down to just a few seconds. And then you realize that at the end, Philip had just a lot more composure than Mr. Sekyere did when it came down to the final seconds. So yeah, Philip takes the first point. And this game starts with Mr. Sekyere as white. He starts with e4. Philip plays a French, and he goes for a knight f3, the exchange French. One of the most boring variations in all of chess. They both castle early, put their bishops on d3 and e6. Their position is completely symmetrical. It's breaking now with h6, c3 is played, bishop g4, knight comes to d2, c6 is played, queen c2. And really, it's considered boring because, again, you can see the symmetry. The position is just like a mirror image. The only difference being this move h6. So if white should go like h3 right now, we are getting closer to symmetry again. So it's difficult to do anything exciting really in positions like this. They tend to be dry and not too interesting. But okay, b3 is played by white. Rook c8 and c4. Interesting. c5 by black, consistent with his plan of putting the rook on the c file, especially playing against this queen here on c2. D takes c5 was played, the knight took back. The bishop dropped back to e2 to avoid capture. Then the knight came into e4. I must say I really like what Philip has done in this opening as black. It looks like he's solved all his opening problems, and he might actually be threatening to be a little better already as black, which is fairly impressive. The bishop came to b2 for white. Rook e8 was played. Queen came to d3, bishop came to f5, and this is the current position. So the knight came to d4 to hit the bishop. The bishop dropped all the way back to h7, and he's always threatening this reveal on the queen, so the queen probably has to move now and find a good square to land on. But also the queen is the only guy protecting this knight on d3, so maybe you do have to take the knight after all, because if you move your queen anywhere, you still have to move to a square where you maintain defense of this knight on d2, which looks like it's not too simple. So he rather ignores all that and takes this point. He's not afraid of any reveals. I guess he's calculated and made sure there's nothing happening there. But I'm actually not too convinced. Like something like knight c3 looks very interesting. But he goes for knight f2, which was the other move I was thinking about. Because I mean that reveal just looked like, oh, what? What is this? No, I don't think he has enough compensation for that. Did he just miss that the queen was unpriest there? It seems he maybe just missed that the queen was being attacked by the bishop there, because he took some time after the bishop took the queen before he took back. So okay, he sacrificed his queen for 2 pieces. Yeah, not anywhere close to enough compensation. I don't believe it for a second. I think black is comfortably up material here and should convert. He just needs to make sure this bishop pair doesn't cause his king any problems. I don't think they will. In terms of setup, I would probably put my queen. Yeah, that seems like a fine square for the queen. And then the knight can come into f4, and then everything should collapse. Really should collapse. Yeah, already h2 is falling. There's no way to survive here. I don't know exactly what happened there. I think Mr. Sekyere probably just missed that this attack was there. So at this point, I was mentioning that the queen had to find a square to go to still protect this knight on d2. So it looked a bit difficult, and he couldn't find a solution. And I think the position is now just completely winning. Knight e3, check is on the board. The king has to go away somewhere. He can always take a pawn here on c4 after that if he wants to. He can probably just keep the attack going though somehow. It just looks completely lost. I'll probably just take the pawn on c4. No need to complicate things. Oh, he does want to complicate things. So knight g4 check. He's going for the king's throat here. And is there a way to maybe just take the pawn on h2 with the knight? You can trade here, I guess. Oh, queen g3 check. He really wants to kill the guy. Now rook e1 should be game over. Game over. Okay, that was I guess a nice win from Philip. I'm assuming he's going to. I mean, he has to win this one. Not a great start by Mr. Sekyere, going down 2 games, especially because the first game was really not deserved. He should have won that one easily, but yeah, things happened, and unfortunately, in this game he got blown off the board after he missed that his queen was just hanging. So it's going to be a tough way back. Somehow the game is still going on. But yeah, no, white is down way too much material and also down on the clock, although that hardly matters in this kind of position. He's trying to coordinate his pieces somehow, and 3 pieces can actually, like if this bishop that weren't there and was just the queen, 3 pieces are known to, in some middle game positions, give the queen a lot of trouble. But the problem is that this king is way too weak for any of that to be relevant, like just way too weak. So whatever they try to do, the king safety is going to be a bigger issue. So yeah, the game ends, and game 2 also goes the way of Mr. Philip, who will switch over to the white side and follow Philip for this game. So Philip has a 2-game lead. The format is a 10-game match, of course, so the winning scoreline is 5.5 points out of 10. Philip already has 2 of those 5.5 points, and it's certainly looking like he's on better form, I guess, on the day. On game 3, he goes for another Catalan type setup. This time, Mr. Sekyere responded slightly differently like he did in the first game, and Philip went for an early c3 d4. So they traded on d4, and I guess they have a position where white kind of has a free hand. I mean, white should be easily better here, maybe not much better, but just better out of the opening. Because it's a Catalan type position, he has this beautiful bishop, he has a knight on c3, he has the move e4 in for free, and in exchange, black usually should have something, right? Should either push like c5 or have done something to try and combat the center, but he's gone for a very passive setup where he just develops all his pieces but then doesn't get any of them particularly active. So white simply should be comfortably better, but of course it's not simple to convert. So we'll see how the game progresses. Rook e1 has been played. Rook e8 from black. Maybe he wants to put the bishop here on f8 and just sit solid. This is like a cocoon setup. He's just crouching and then trying to dare you to overextend as white, which also is a real possibility in many positions like this. As white, you can push some of these pawns a bit prematurely and then get them weak in some sort of middle game or end game. This time though, Philip is staying competitive on the clock. In the first 2 games, Mr. Sekyere proved to be faster, at least in the opening and early middle games. But in this game, Philip has a slight lead on the clock coming out of the opening, and his position is looking very comfortable. Wow, it's just beautiful. Now he has the rooks all in the center. The bishop is back on c1, which actually is one of the best squares on the board for this bishop. You just need to make sure you get the rook out before you get the bishop here, because he's always staring down this guy on h6, And yeah, at some point in the game, you can quickly reroute your pieces and go for some sort of kingside attack, which, yeah, after the move e5 is looking to be more and more possible, because this move makes sure that there is never going to be a defensive knight on f6. And then, yeah, attacks towards the king side start to look a lot more palatable. So Philip simply has a free hand here. The position is just better for him. And the only question is, can he convert? Can he convert? Time is basically level now, I guess. Yeah, coming into this game, I wasn't entirely sure who was the favorite because, like I said, both are very strong. But because Mr. Sekyere hasn't played competitive chess in like 5 years, that was his last federated tournament. It was difficult to gauge the kind of form he would bring into the match, because I mean, playing Blitz online is very different from playing any sort of competitive chess game, it must be said. So yeah, it wasn't difficult. It wasn't too easy to predict how the match would go. In the end, I probably guessed that Philip's activity would make him a slight favorite, but it really depended on what form Mr. Sekyere showed up in today. And I must say, from what I've seen from the first 2 games, he looks just like someone who hasn't really played too much competitive chess for a while. So, I mean, you can still see that he's a strong chess player, but then there's that evidence of a little bit of rust that may prove to be decisive. But again, we live to see. So he went for the b5 break. Very nice, trying to activate his rook here on b8. The queen had to drop back somewhere. So he can maybe take here and then activate the rook. But the problem is the queen is going to come and join the attack here on the king side. You already have 2 knights in the area. You have a bishop staring down h6. So if the queen should ever join the attack on the king side, it could very easily be crashing. So yeah, he took the pawn, opened up the rook. Here as white, I'd be looking for a way to get my queen maybe to this f4 square. That looks to be the only square close to the guy's skin that your queen can inhabit, because these bishops are actually doing a fairly good job of taking away all these squares from the queen. Okay, so the queen decides to go here to c4, another very nice square. Pays this pawn. So now the g6 is actually a square that white can use for his operations. And actually, this capture on a4, although it activates the rook, that pawn is not the most convincing. That pawn will probably fall at some point. This pawn is also quite weak. So yeah, the only benefit you got out of it is an active rook. The material that you've gotten doesn't really mean anything at all at this point in the game. So again, I think although he's now sacrificed the pawn, white still should be comfortably better here. It's only a question of whether he can convert. And positions like this are not too easy to convert. He starts with h3 and you realize that he feels he's better, so he's trying to invest a bit of time to find some sort of knockout, but then it's never simple. And so he's beginning to go a bit down on the clock, is white. And in positions like this, you can very easily lose them because you don't find any obvious win, and you may spend all your time trying to figure out something. So he's played h3, king h2, which I guess is an okay sequence. King h2 I guess was forced because after he played h3, black went queen c8, hitting that pawn on h3. So the king came to h2 to defend that pawn. I don't know whether his plan is to go for like an f4, f5 after moving his knight out of the way. That could be something. But black just played rook f8, which looks a bit funky as well. Because the thing is, white is always threatening to open up the e file and take control of it because he already has a rook there. And you're not really threatening to push this f pawn because that pawn is just pinned. So I'm not sure what the idea is. Maybe you wanted to put the bishop on e6 and then push the f pawn. Okay, but the queen dropped to e2. Again, I'm not sure why. They're both playing slightly funky moves. It's not they're not moves that are easy for me to predict because I don't quite get what the ideas are. But okay, we should also recognize that it's Blitz. It's not exactly the most logical chess that exists. So sometimes it's just a question of making a move quickly rather than trying to find any sort of best move. So knight c3 has been played. Now we are getting under a minute for both sides, so it's getting tricky. Knight c3 threatens knight e5, forking rook and bishop here on e7, so that's something to look out for. Black is probably calculating this and other things, so he plays c6 to take that square away from the knight. But is there some sort of other idea? I don't know. Maybe you can try. Yeah, I think pushing d5 with a pawn was actually clever there. I'm not sure if it did anything, but it was something to look at. And now it's looking like positions opening up in favor of white. I mean, all his pieces are active and centralized and look beautiful. And black's pieces, yeah, look at this knight. They all look kind of silly. Oof, bishop e8. They all look kind of silly. So yeah, white is definitely winning here, no doubt. But it's only a question of, again, finding the knockout punch. Will he be able to do it? He's down on the clock. He's down to under 15 seconds now, and Mr. Sekyere is down to about 20 seconds now. Oh, but he didn't take. Why didn't he take the rook? What was going on there? So I mean, after knight c4, he hit the queen and then he hit the bishop. So the rook came to b5 to b4 to hit the knight as well. So after he took the bishop, I expected rook takes knight to be played, because I don't think you drop any other material. But for some reason, he decided to play knight e6 and also drop the rook on b4. And now he's just completely lost. He tried something c5, pawn takes, knight takes, but yeah, I don't think there's anything here, and Philip should comfortably take a third point. It's interesting because in general it seems Mr. Sekyere plays a bit faster than Philip, and so Philip also always gets into time trouble earlier than he does. But then once Philip manages to hold on just a little for Mr. Sekyere to also get into time trouble, he just blunders immediately. He doesn't seem to be able to handle the time trouble anywhere near as well as Philip is able to, and that has actually proved to be the only difference between them today. So they both get down to under 10 seconds, but then consistently Chessfold blunders almost immediately, but then Philip does not. So yeah, he's going to checkmate soon, or flag. Wow, the game is still going on. It's just mating 2 now after queen g6 actually. Yeah, oh, queen g6 actually just mate. So yeah, this is game 3. Also has gone the way of Philip, and it's starting to look a bit bad, the scoreline, but it doesn't really reflect the chess that has been played at all. The chess has been fairly level. It's only been in these critical time trouble moments that Philip has proven to be much better than Mr. Sekyere. So again, the rust is probably the only difference between these two players today. In this game 4, Philip from the white side played another fairly unambitious setup. So both of them as white have not really played anything groundbreaking. No e4s or d4s, just very calm, cautious fianchettos on the king side and queen side. And this is actually quite fun. You don't often see something like this where both sides fianchetto on the queen side and castle that way. So, and again, they are playing very symmetrical setups. The position is still completely symmetrical after like 11 moves. Okay, so queen d2 rook h is the first bit of asymmetry we get here. Knight e5 is on the board. And yeah, if Mr. Sekyere wants to remain in the match, he really has to win like right now, because it's starting, the scoreline is starting to look a bit not uncompetitive, which is not what we want at all. We want blood. So yeah, we hope he manages to get things under control and get a couple of wins to make the match a bit more interesting. So knight b5, okay, he's just going for checkmate like immediately. So I think bishop takes knight is forced. Is there any other way to stop checkmate? I think he has to just take the knight now, and you really don't want to give up that bishop. So it seems that direct approach has actually served a good purpose now. He seems to have managed to significantly weaken black's king, because I think bishop takes knight is forced here. Bishop g2, wow, just allowing queen h7 and then saying he's going to hide out here. That's brave, because like something like bishop takes this pawn is already possible, because the bishop cannot take back because of queen c7 checkmate. So like bishop takes d5, how do you respond? I guess, do you play d6, c6? Maybe that worked, but anyway, he took the pawn instead. I think I would definitely have preferred bishop takes this one, because it's not simple how you're supposed to respond. I think c6 might actually be forced, and then no, c6 you can just take that pawn as well. So yeah, bishop e5 may have been winning, but he took knight c5 is on the board. So it's interesting. I think maybe Philip might have seen that bishop e5 idea. So rather than take back this guy, he decided to just play knight to c5, making sure that the rook defends the e5 pawn, and bishop e5 ideas don't any longer exist. Bishop d5 ideas. So yeah, Mr. Sekyere is up 2 pawns. Although I think he's going to lose one back. So for now, he's up a pawn. Yeah, he's taking the pawn back. But yeah, Philip's king does not look safe at all. Mr. Sekyere is definitely better here. But as whether he can convert, this is the question. He's had better positions before, but he seems to just lack that little bit of needle when it comes to deciding the game. So okay, put the knight over on d4. So I guess now he's no longer going for these kingside assaults. Bishop d6 was actually quite strong. b4 was almost forced. I think the knight came into e4 because there were ideas of playing knight d3 with check and then winning the queen on h3. So he had to play b4 to break this kind of things. So knight e5, the bishop took back on b4 intermezzo. Does that work? I guess it works. So queen g3 maybe is forced, queen b3. And then the pawn has to take back. Because the queen has to babysit this bishop. So the pawn has to take back. And Philip has managed to win the material back actually. And now his king doesn't look anywhere as in trouble as it did a few moves ago. So he's actually done quite well. I still think white should be a bit better, not because of c3. I think because of the move knight f5. I think that was the only move that it hits the queen, it unleashes this bishop, and then you can try and do something with your rooks. But the move c3, I mean, you just away the guy's bishop, but then wow, queen c5 is interesting. But then you also block out yours completely. I mean, why do you want to do this? And now he also plays a3, and now he's left his own bishop on b2 in a tomb of its own pawns, and the bishop is now a tall pawn. You never want to do this to your pieces. The bishop dropped back to a5. The queen took the pawn on f7. That's some dangerous. Wait, why didn't you just take on c3? I mean, just bishop c3. Why do you want to chase that queen away? It's not attacking anything, is it? That seems really. I guess he wants to take here. Okay, let's see what it does. Rook f8, queen b3. Yeah, he wants to take on f2, which is also very strong. I would probably have just taken on c3 and opened up that white king, because I mean, that doesn't look like something you should be allowed to do. Ooh, but then knight e6 happens on the board, forcing rook d1. Rook takes back. Now the queen is hit. The queen has to find a square. The queen can take here with check, and actually black is just winning, I guess. After queen takes e3, check here. King b1, and then ooh, if the bishop joins this action, that will be GG's. Okay, rook f1 check was nice. King b7, queen d5 check. Are we going to see a win finally for Mr. Sekyere? I think so. It looks like he's winning. It's winning. It's checkmate. It's definitely checkmate. After queen d5 check, yeah, Philip resigns, and we finally have a point for Mr. Sekyere. It is 4 games have been played. Scoreline is 3-1 in favor of Mr. Philip. He's black on the white side now. We'll flip, and then he goes for g3. So we're just having g3s and b3s today. It's kind of nice. It's the fianchetto day. So yeah, he goes for a kingside fianchetto. Wow, that's quite a setup. A kingside fianchetto and a very early f4. You don't see things like this very often. He's playing e3, d3 and e4. But he's starting to look homogeneous. The things that he's doing look funky, but then they make sense, right? You brought the knight here instead of here because you wanted to play an early f4. And so you wanted the knight out of the way. To support this pawn, you brought these two guys into the center. So you do have central pawns. You brought a knight back here to kind of support something like h3, g4 in the future if you want to attack on the queen side, on the king side. If not, you can just bring the knight into the center. Okay, so knight g4 has been played. Meanwhile, black has set up his pieces a bit oddly. Again, you see the harmony in white's moves, although they look strange. Oh, is that a blunder? Bishop d5, bishop d4, yeah, funny. But then I was going to say you don't see the same harmony in black's pieces. Like I don't know why this knight is on a6. I could tell you why the knight was on h3 for white, but then I don't know what this knight is doing here. All that being said, there was a blunder though from Mr. Philip after knight g4. I don't know why I didn't want to take. I would probably have just taken that. But he didn't want to invite the bishop into his position maybe. So he decided to drop back his bishop to d2. So the knight took on f2. And he had to take back with the king because this was a pin. But he took back with the rook, bishop d4. Pinned the rook to the king. And he's going down an exchange. King f1 was played. The bishop took, the king took back. Then bishop g4. Queen e1. The knight came to c5. Bishop came to e3. I must say though that although he's down an exchange, it's not the most useful material gain for black. The thing is, we're going to sacrifice material. The exchange is one of the best things to sacrifice because it always leaves you with an equal number of pieces left. Like you still both have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces left, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just so happens that one of those pieces is different. So all you really need to do is make sure that one of your minor pieces can be just as strong as a rook or stronger, and you can eliminate the fact that you are down material. So if you're going to drop material, drop an exchange. It's one of the best materials to drop because it always still gives you chances. Because yeah, I must say this rook isn't doing anything and isn't worth any material at all as yet. So as it stands, white isn't actually down any material in terms of pieces that are actually playing the game. And that's why, yeah, him being down an exchange isn't really all that important as yet. He will need to find a way to make this rook important for it to be relevant that he is up the exchange. So white has set up his pieces here on the king side. That being said, I think he has to do something quickly, because if he gives black like 5 moves, black will get something for that rook to do, and then the material difference will start to show. But he's not playing decisively. He's just sort of shuffling around as white, and probably that will give black enough time to make his material count. They are still doing this little shuffle where black desperately wants white to exchange bishops to allow his queen to come into the game, and white is decidedly against it. But okay, finally acquiesces and allows it, and the queen came to g2. Now his queen is able to join the action here on g4. Maybe he wants to go h3 immediately, exactly, and then push that queen back, because you do not want that queen in your camp. But now again, it looks like it's going to be not too difficult for black to find something for that rook to do, and he's going to try and argue he's simply up material. He goes b5 though. Again, very slightly funky move. I would have played rook e8 and then e5 as black, but okay, we'll see what his idea is. He wants to play b4 immediately and dislodge this knight. I don't know why though. Does he want to play c5, or what's the idea? Or maybe like a5. I guess a5, a4, a3. I don't really know what his ideas are. He's playing slightly funky moves in this game, is Mr. Sekyere, but he's up the material, up the exchange, and he's making a lot of threats. Now he's hitting the pawn on e4 and also the pawn on a2, and I don't know how you defend both of these. So Philip has kind of self-destructed in this game. Yeah, someone mentioned in the match that Philip intentionally plays slightly inaccurately to throw his opponents off, and that isn't all too false. That is one of his well, not necessarily inaccurately, but then he always plays very intelligently. He tries to play the person as much as he plays the position. So if he's aware that you are slightly uncomfortable in certain positions, he doesn't mind making sub-palm moves just to get the game either unbalanced or into a territory that he knows you'll be less comfortable. So he does play intelligent just like that. Although in this game, I'm not sure that that's worked out all that well. I mean, it's a slightly risky style of chess, of course, but more often than not, it does work out for him. Of course, he's a very, very strong player. So they are still shuffling. Yeah, I'm not really understanding what either side is doing. I thought white should have been pushing for something like f5 long ago, and black should really have been trying to break in the center with like an e5, or figured out a way to get this knight. I mean, I don't know what this queen is doing on e6, and I should be on e6. But either way, they're both just kind of shuffling. And now Philip has finally gone in for the break f5. Takes, now you have to stay back with the g pawn. The queen has to find a square. And now he's looking like, oh, he sucks. He didn't have to suck, right? I mean, the queen could have just dropped back. I guess he didn't like the attack after like rook g1, stuff like this. f6 was possible. But he decided to sack the material back. And now it's looking interesting. Oh, sorry, I just missed it. Okay, so yeah, there was a knight hanging on e2. Okay, so it's late. Okay, I can miss tactics. So that was the point, that Mr. Philip's attack was flawed, and he just won a pawn from that sequence. But now he seems to be getting some counterplay. So rook e1 forces queen f3 is like the only move. You can also take on c2, but that's ludicrous. And now he's arguing he can take it on c7, and he's threatening checkmate. So you need to find something like right now. Maybe rook f7. Yeah, maybe rook f7. What? Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. I should not be laughing. Oh, yeah, that is not good form. That is yeah, so you can see what I mean by the rest is showing. I mean, he's clearly very, very strong, Mr. Sekyere, but 5 years away from competitive chess is tough, and you'll miss things like mating once. That was completely unnecessary, and it's unfortunate because it was a game where he was up quite a bit of material early on. But yeah, it happens. It really does happen. So this is the next game, game 6. Mr. Philip is up 4 games to 1, and he only needs 1.5 points to take the win in the match. They played another exchange French. I won't bother going back to the opening. It's not the most interesting setup. But this time, White has played a lot more harmoniously, and so he seems to have gotten his pieces in very active position. He has a nice bishop here on d3. The queen works well with that bishop, and the knight is now developing to a dangerous spot as well. He's always threatening bishop h6. Like, I would play bishop h6 right now without thinking. Takes, queen takes. You are threatening knight g5. You are threatening stuff with bishop h7. I'll just stop thinking there and decide that it's worth it. But he goes for the more cautious bishop d2. I think bishop h6 there is, I mean, it's probably not the best move. The engine definitely probably has some sort of defense, but over the board, in Blitz especially, it's not easy to defend against direct attacks like that. So yeah. Maxwell with the quotes in the chat, chess is a spiritual game. I have heard him say that more than once, and maybe he's onto something. So queen d7 by Philip to try and get the queen exchanging. He was also feeling that pressure. All the pieces are pointing towards his king, and I think bishop h6 on the previous move already was good, but now he's trying to shut things down with this move. But the queen goes to h4, which is looks like a less than ideal square, because even nothing at all, this knight has multiple squares that can gain tempo on that queen. Yeah, he goes for one of them, he goes for f5, and now the queen has to find another square, or he has to give up the light square bishop, which really is not something you want to do. So he goes back to h3 to pin the knight, but it's not really a pin, so the knight can't move because this knight protects the queen. But he's threatening to win the knight, so you do have to do something. I guess you can just move back and go like draw. That is an option. But yeah, this match has been all sorts of interesting. Yeah, he does do just that. I think it really was the best move to just go back. And I mean, do you want to repeat, or do you want to break the symmetry somehow? Yeah, you have to allow the queen exchange, because you can't really take draws as Mr. Sekyere, because Philip is just up 3 points in the match. You have to find a way to win. So he goes for a quick double, but yeah, knight g6 shows up on the board. So whenever you double, all the rooks are going to get traded off. That happens immediately. And you still do have a bishop pair, but you also have these doubled pawns on the king side. That will seriously hamper any chances that you might want to have of winning the game. Also, this knight is just heading to f4. Yeah, that causes him to snap that knight off. But now it's just a bishop and knight versus bishop and knight. Equal number of pawns. Both have a pair of doubled pawns. And actually, black's pawn structure is slightly healthier than white's. And black might actually just be a little bit better here, because the thing is, your pawns are on the dark squares, which forces you to create this pawn phalanx on the dark squares, but they also really very severely limit your dark square bishop. And this knight is just way better than that bishop. The knight is going to live here. The bishop is never going to be able to leave the defense of this pawn, and all of black's pieces look better than white, unfortunately. So it's still probably closer to equal than it is to winning, but the only person who can dream of winning this position, yeah, like knight e6 and then c5 is the move. c5, e4. Black is the only person who can try and win this position. Play d4, distract that bishop, then you can take here. Like, it's starting to look very interesting. But probably there should be some way to hold. Of course, material is still equal also. So now taking is forced, yeah, and then you drop the bishop back. Yeah, and then the knight is getting in. Yeah, it's actually just winning, isn't it? Oh, that was a very nice endgame. Technical, that was a good technical win. Okay, the game is not won yet. I shouldn't jump ahead of myself. But it does look very, very bad. I'm not sure how you hold. You probably shouldn't hold. And he has 2 minutes to convert. Philip is starting to make this look a bit imbalanced, the match, unfortunately. We wish our spectators to have more. Oh, okay. Interesting attempt. Bishop b4. He wants to get his bishop here to f8 and also start taking all of black's pawns. But Philip just goes like, I don't care, and starts pushing his pawn. King e2 is forced. And now what do? You can take this pawn, but he takes that one. And then maybe you go here, but then he starts pushing his pawn. It's not too simple, actually, is it? It's not too simple at all. Okay, he goes pawn taking. He just starts pushing. No, the pawn is hanging. No, then this is just completely winning for black. He's up 2 pawns. 0 compensation. I mean, it's just an end game. Also, both of these 2 pawns are going to fall, so it's not even difficult at this point. It's actually just completely winning for Mr. Philip. I must say he's shown quite some level in this match. He hasn't allowed Mr. Sekyere to come back after that one win, and in the last game he was much better, Mr. Sekyere. So it looked like maybe he could string it together a few victories and come back in the match, but Philip just put his foot down, and then he's now completely bossing the match again. So his knight is hit. He does have to find a square for the knight. Where do you go? He went back to c7, but then the king gets in, forcing the knight back to e8. It's not the most pleasant square, but wait, actually the king is coming here. Here the bishop just takes. Maybe his idea is that he wants to put the knight on f6 then, but his king is surprised. Yeah, the king is surprisingly fast. I guess you push here, bishop comes here, bishop a3, and then you have to find somewhere for this guy to go. I guess now you can play like a knight d here, and then after he takes, this is where it becomes critical. I guess after knight here, oh, he just takes the pawn. Yeah, then you take this pawn. Oh no, this shouldn't work. He has to take the pawn. You can't allow these pawns because he already has a pass pawn that is tied down your one piece. The king can never get back to stop this pawn, and now the bishop alone will have to stop both these pass pawns, which is just not possible. So black is completely winning, and yeah, Philip will take a 4-point lead in this match, and after this game we only need half a point to claim match victory. So yeah, he resigns. That's black. That's white. Yeah, Philip is playing well, must be said. He's really shown his class in this game. And although again the competitive part of the chess has actually been close, the critical moments and in Blitz, these moments are extremely important, have all gone Philip's way. So the scoreline looks very, and he's gone for the same opening in this game that he did a couple of games ago, where he put the knight on h3 and then goes for an earlier 4. This time Mr. Sekyere decides to snap take that knight on h3. I'm not sure what the idea is. I don't think it's very good, to be honest. So in general, when you give up bishops that early, as any color, this is just general strategy for you. The ideas behind it usually is to try and put your pawns on the opposite color complex, because whenever you give up one color bishop, you always want to put your pawns on that color. So now you're giving up the light square bishops. You want to put your pawns as black on the light squares so that your other bishop is strong, right? But you never want to do this where you give up your light square bishop and all your pawns are already on a dark square, because the only other bishop that you have is already kind of sucks. So it's not the bishop you want to keep. So if anything at all, this is the bishop you want to exchange. But I mean, I did see later on that he's gone for d5, exactly, trying to create some hope for this bishop after all, which is the way to go. So an exchange happened on e4. The move d5 was played. Knight came into d4. Why can't you take that? You can. Wait, what happened here? So I guess knight b8 was forced, but he didn't want to do that, or what was the reason for? So he just gave up the knight and played b6, threatening c5, bishop c5. But I mean, that's a bit obvious. So the queen moved away, took a pawn. Bishop c5 came with check. Just king j2. Yeah, it's just nothing here. Why did he just give up a piece? That's yeah, that's quite some suspect chess. So queen f5, he's threatening to start mating you. So f6 is played. You need to stop rook e7 for black side. So that's the only threat he has now. You can just play like a rook e4 actually. No, rook e4 works. No, it doesn't work in 20. Yeah, rook e4 is fine. So he finds it. And yeah, you're just up a piece as black. I don't see any reason why Mr. Sekyere gave up that knight. I mean, it's very ugly to take your knight back to b8, but that's what you had to do. It's just, yeah, Philip has seems like he's going to have a very smooth victory in this match. He's up a piece in this game, and he only needs a draw in this game to win the match. So unfortunately, the match was not as competitive as we would have liked. But I mean, kudos to Mr. Sekyere. He still has played very, very fine chess. And if this were like long chess, it would be very competitive. Because the only difference really came in the moment where he went down on time, and then he just didn't have that kind of instinct to find good moves with zero time. Which is something I feel I have the same problem. less than 10 seconds and I play like a 200. It's very difficult. So he took on e4. I don't know what the delay is because I mean there's only one piece I can take back. Okay, so he finally took back. And I don't know what you're supposed to do here as black. You're just down a piece. There's zero compensation. Your king is actually the worst of the two. You have a bishop here on d3 to on d6 to contend with, and yeah, you should probably just resign soon. Yeah, thank you for the reminder. So as this game trickles down to its completion, we'll take a few moments to talk about the Brilliancy Chess Academy Blitz Marathon. This is an upcoming tournament. I believe we are like 9 days away. The date is the 6th of November, and it's promising to be an absolute thriller of an event. It's going to be a Blitz arena, I believe, on lichess.com with a time control of 5 minutes with 0 increment. Bizakin is very much allowed, and I think the tournament is going to last 300 minutes, so that should be like do I still have my math abilities with me? That should be like is that 5 hours? Wait, that's 5 hours. Huh. I didn't think it was that long. Okay, so yeah, that's like 5 hours of blitz that you have to look forward to on November the 6th. So you're going to decide the strongest blitz player in the country, I guess, basically. And yeah, it promises to be interesting. I think everyone who is anyone should be prepared to put their reputation on the line, and we are going to see who comes out on top. Bizakin is also allowed, so these lichess strategies will also come into play. Meanwhile, Mr. Philip is trying to weave a mating net over here. He's already threatening rook h6, which is a checkmate after pawn takes and then queen h6. So you have to give a material. He's actually also hitting this rook. It's actually just game over. There's like 0 move. This is mate in X, I would guess. Funny enough, the move rook takes bishop is probably forced. It's probably like the only move that extends the game any further. This is checkmate after rook h6. Pawn takes is forced, and there's just queen g8 is checkmate. So yeah, Mr. Philip wins convincingly, I must say. The scoreline is 6-1. They've rematched, but I think the match should be over. I don't know what the rules are about when one side wins. I guess that probably the match would end, but I guess maybe they'll play it out till all the 10 games are played, which will leave us with 3 more games to play. That cannot change the outcome, but yeah, I guess you'd rather lose 6-4 than lose 6-1. So yeah, Mr. Sekyere definitely probably wants to win a few more games. So here they play some sort of c3 Sicilian. Okay, transposed to a c3 Sicilian. They are lapping. d5 was played. They traded in the center. Bishop e4. This is all fairly standard stuff. Rook e1, bishop e7, queen e2. Oh, and he castled long the black. That's interesting. Bishop f6, queen came to g3. Knight to h6, d3. Knight came to f5, hitting the queen. Yeah, it looks like an interesting setup. Black has a huge lead in development, though white still has these 2 pieces to figure out. And oh, where's I guess at the end you have bishop d2. Okay, I thought he had like this winning material, but because this guy is pinned, I mean, he's going to play bishop d2 at the end and protect the rook. So yeah, sorry about that. This is a game 8. The scoreline currently is 6-1. If you're just joining us, Philip has already won the match. But the rest of the games maybe will be played. Maybe they'll stop after this one. I do not know. Not knowing is part of the fun. So the knight has rerouted here to g6. It hits the queen. The queen is kind of finding difficult to find squares. It comes to d5. So the queen is just being knocked around by the knight. Now he has to come to e2 to protect. Okay, it goes to d1 to do the same thing. But black has any, because long term black's king is not as safe as white's king. I mean, whenever you castle queen side, that's the intrinsic danger, because queen side is never as safe as king side. But black has a lot of activity, and white still has to figure out how to develop this knight on b1 usefully. So yeah, if he can figure out a way to put pressure on white, he can get a lot of compensation out. So queen f5 was played, hitting the pawn on d3, forcing the pawn to push to d4. Now, do you take or do you just move the knight away? He decides to just move the knight away. The knight comes to g4. And yeah, all of black's pieces are coming around. So it's not too difficult to imagine some sort of mating attack coming on this king very soon, because the king actually doesn't have a ton of defenders. What do you do as black here? Probably h3, but then knight takes. Yeah, that's starts to look uncomfortable, because you don't really want to move it off these 2 pawns, because after this guy takes, you have to take back with the pawn somehow, and you leave this huge hole on g3 if you move the h pawn. So he decided to take material, which I think is very bold considering all the pieces facing his king. And d4 was played. What's the idea? I guess after takes. What's the idea behind d4? I wonder. After takes, bishop cannot take. So, oh, after take, bishop can take, because after bishop takes, you have rook e1. Intermezzo, and after queen takes, the bishop will be hanging. Although after that will be like a queen e8 check. I don't think it leads anywhere. So okay, c just took. I don't know. Let's see whether that's the idea. No, his idea is to sack. Okay. If his idea was to sack, I guess he could have sacked without including d4. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, it's easy to see why he wants to sack, because all this become holes. Queen f2 was played. The king came to h1. Queen h4. Threatening checkmate. Do you have to go h3? Oh, but h3 you will lose your queen. Wow, it's just game over. Oh, Philip has just shown a whole another level today. And yeah, the queen takes knight was forced. He's won a ton of material, and he's going to win this game as well. I think they really should stop the match. This is starting to look. I mean, the match is over, so there's no point to play these games, especially when one side is getting ruled like this. It doesn't look all that great. Anyway, but he's going to try and master up some defense as white. I don't think he has all that much. I mean, he does have these pawns, but they are never going to get anywhere close. The only one that's passed is this guy, but yeah, I don't think there's any much danger here at all. Although that being said, it's not exactly clear how black. It's not simple how black will win either. He's just up 2 points worth of material, 2 pawns worth. So he has a queen and he has a bishop, and in exchange, white has a rook and knight and 2 pawns. But I do fully still expect black to find a way to win eventually. He should be much better. He just needs to make sure these pawns don't get dangerous. So yeah, white is trying to push those pawns. How do you want to do this? c5 seems a bit combative. Maybe just like c6. Just hold all the pawns down. Maybe that's the way to go. He goes rook e6. Oh, he's just going for the king, but I mean the king is defended, so I don't see what the threat is. And this kind of walks into d5 with tempo, so I'm not sure what the idea behind rook e6 is. Or maybe wants to go the other way. It doesn't look too convincing, does it? So rook comes to f1, stopping the rook from taking over this file. Yeah, maybe now you play rook here. Oh, he goes here. I guess he wants to attack h2 then. Interesting. I'm not sure I have enough material to do that, but maybe you do. Maybe you do. Maybe Philip has seen something I have not. Rook h6. I've not just gone rook f6 and traded these guys off, because once a pair of rooks come off, then I really start to doubt that white has enough to hold. Then I can just like attack this pawn and something will fall. So he goes bishop f6 after h3 was played. Now he's threatening this tab. I don't think you ever have enough to sack, because after you take, you've won. You've lost a bunch of material, but you don't seem to have enough to actually checkmate. So he goes e5 to hit the bishop again. The bishop can come, I guess, here to g5. Yeah, it's actually starting to look a bit iffy from black, because after that, the rook can take here. And guess what? That's a pass pawn. That's another pass pawn. They're actually starting to look dangerous. Also, your king is starting to look a bit iffy as well. So he goes rook e4 first to hit the queen. I'm not sure why. It looked like he could have just taken here. Maybe there was something I missed. Oh, he doubles rooks on the f file. Anyways, he's doing quite well. Oh, and now f6 is on the board. that allows him to push the pawn to e6, and now he has connected passes. Will he manage to do anything with them? Remains to be seen. This rook on h6 is starting to look very silly, and is probably starting to regret not going for rook f6 earlier on. But yeah, now the knight is coming in. Yeah, black has definitely misplayed this and has made it interesting again, which is what we want. So the rook has come back to f3, hitting the queen. The queen has to drop. Ooh, the queen needs to find a square. It's not so simple because h4 looks ugly. If he wants to come back, he has to go all the way to b8. He decides to go for h4. And whoa, what's going on? I guess h4 attacked this pawn, and he didn't really have a good way to hold it down. So he played knight c7, which looks like he just drops a knight. Again, I don't know why he didn't just take it. But I decided to take this pawn instead. e7 check was played. King takes, then rook e1. Okay. King came to f7, knight came to e6, hitting the queen. The queen took more pawns, knight d8, and yeah, now it's obvious that he just doesn't have enough as white. He has tried, he has fought valiantly, but now he's losing all his material, and the queen is proven to be much superior. Wait, okay, no. for a second I thought it was close to checkmate, but the rook was hanging on f5. So yeah, he has tried actually, but there's just no saving this position. And how do you finish this position up as black? Checkmate should be close. Rook f2 is a rook f2 was checkmate actually, but he missed it. Went rook g3, and that's another checkmate after king h2, queen g1 checkmate. So yeah, Philip is just completely. They're still playing. I don't know what the regulations are. I'll find out after the match. I thought the match should end after it ends, but they are still playing. I really hope we don't see a 9-1 scoreline, because it wouldn't be too fair. Philip has been much better, of course, but not that much better. So he went this game for a g4. I think it's called the grub. d5 was played, h2, knight c6, d6, e6, e3, bishop d7, bishop knight e2, bishop d6, castle shot, knight g, e7, f4. Okay, so another opening where Philip has played this early f4 by putting the knights on strange squares that look strange but have a lot of, make a lot of sense. This time though, black had not yet castled, and so he can lash out with h5 and then try and chip against this king side and eventually castle long. So that's what he's going for, which also looks very interesting. So the knight comes to g6, knight h5. Actually that looks a bit annoying. You have to play rook h7. No, he decides to go bishop c8, bishop f8 instead. Queen is joining the action. Maybe now you bring out your queen and you castle long, and you try and argue that you want to punish white for castling so early and committing to this kingside attack. Exactly, that has been done. And now these pawns that you've moved, that you thought you were going to use to attack me, are now going to be used as leverage against you. Whoa, that was a dangerous move. Wasn't that just really bad? After you take, what's the idea? Because if you take back, you can just like take here, and it looks very bad. You get material back, but you're completely opened up. So I'm not sure why he didn't just take, but he moved the knight to e5, and then queen g3 was played, g6 was played. He's just trying to open up this side of the board, but then white went f6. He wants to keep it closed, and yeah, f6 is not a move that black should have allowed, but yeah, he just missed that white would go there. And now his only open file is the h file, so he's probably going to have to try and double along it. So maybe he goes bishop h6 and trades off this bishop and then doubles along the h file. That's one plan. But he goes d4, and it's always another option that you have in positions like this to break in the center. But you always need to make sure it's favorable, and he thinks it's favorable now. I don't necessarily disagree. Now he's gone a4, holds down the knight. Maybe it threatens to push down the board someday. a6 is played, kicking out the knight. The knight needs to find a square. Oh, b4. Enterprising chess, but probably not very good. Anyway, knight takes b4 allows knight takes d4, which was probably the idea. And then what do you do as black? I guess you can put the bishop on e6. Oh, he takes on f2. c2. It's a pawn, but not a very important pawn. Oh, but no, but white should have taken back. Now he's allowed black to create uh possibly deadly. Oh, there was this attack on b7 that he also thought was worth it, but I don't think. Oh, this is very interesting, very very double-edged actually. He just walked into this pin, confidence that he has no light squared weaknesses to speak of, and he doesn't. The only piece on the light square is this bishop, and it's well protected, so you don't, this reveal check actually doesn't get you anything. Although it could get you something close to me, like a check. The king has to come here, like a check, you go here, and this reveal check is a lot more powerful. So if nothing at all, white might be able to get a draw. But he goes bishop a3. What is this move? The bishop is not being protected. What's this move? I have no idea what's going on here anymore. Why? Queen a7? Yeah, I have one of us, either me or the players, have completely lost the plot because I have no idea what's going on any longer. Absolutely no idea. Position is just completely bonkers. There are like 10 pieces hanging. This guy is still hanging, by the way. This revealed exists, and at any point in time, the bishop is going to move somewhere with some crazy check. And now he just took a bishop on f8. I don't even know what you do here. I mean, do you take back? Do you go like a knight here? Wow. Position is interesting. I'm not even going to try and make sense out of it. I'm just going to watch them create b5 because why not? Why not? This one does make a bit of sense though, to be honest. I mean, you're going to lose the knight anyways, so better lose it here where you close down the file, and now you can think of taking this guy than lose it here with the file still open. Although it still looks very very bad actually. God, this position is just madness. Maybe you should take here with the bishop where you hit here, and then you can take the bishop after that. But he takes with the pawn instead, but it doesn't come with tempo, so he has time to move away with his bishop. Yeah, the position is just crazy. It is just crazy. Scoreline is still 7-1 in favor of Philip. So bishop g2, and now I guess black can take this bishop back on f8. And after all the dust has settled, it seems black came out of the craziness up a pawn, which is, I guess it's good. It's good. For some reason he hasn't taken back yet. I thought it would be a snap decision to take, but he went f. Oh, did I miss something? So if takes, I mean, there wasn't any. Oh, maybe the point was rook h1. Yeah, I completely missed rook h1, and he checkmates you on a8. So you have to drop your queen. Oh, very intelligent play by Philip. So he has to play c6 to create some space for his king, and then the bishop comes out and wins a piece, and now it's over again. Wow, wow. Yeah, this game was crazy. This game was just crazy. Oh, it's mating 2, I guess. Yeah, just mating 2. Wherever the king goes is checkmate. This game was absolutely crazy. But again, Philip came out on top. So yeah, that's been the story of the day. Mr. Sekyere. Yeah, now he declined. It's 8-1. I mean, I don't think he should be forced to play a match that he's lost. Chess is very difficult at this level, and when there's nothing to play for, it's difficult. So probably the match will end here, or maybe they will still play the last game. But anyways, they have played 9 games so far. Philip has won 8 of them and has only lost the 1, and he won the match like 3 games ago, but he still hasn't let up and has still won every game since. So dominating performance, well-deserved winner. At the end, I guess it wasn't even close, although the chess was not too, I mean, their chess levels aren't too different. They are both very strong players, but in terms of blitz right now, form, yeah, there's just no comparison. Philip completely dominated the day. Neither of them has gone offline, so I'm not entirely sure if the match has officially ended just yet. I would guess that it has, because he did decline that rematch. So yeah, I guess the match has ended now. So Mr. Philip takes this one with a scoreline of 8 games to 1. Deserved winner, like I said. We'll move on. Thank you very much for tuning in. It was fun having you guys around and in the chat. I did see all your messages and responded to those that I could. Appreciate the support. Drop a comment if you haven't. Please subscribe, leave a like, really helps out with the algorithm. Check out the other videos on the channel. And very important, do not forget that on the 6th of November, in 9 days time, we are going to have the BCA Blitz Marathon. 5+0 time control, 5 hours. Come and show your level, show your worth. They have very attractive cash prizes. For the top 3 in the open, I think the best junior and the best female also gets prizes. And also, there are going to be a few prizes that are like depend on a bit of chance. I've forgotten what they call them, but there are going to be certain, I think the lucky prizes, certain positions that will be announced ahead of time, that if you get like 10th or 20th, something random, you get a prize. So yeah, there's a lot of prizes to go around, so you should really check that out and make time in your schedule to play on the 6th of November. So thank you very much once again for tuning in. We'll end the stream here. See you later. Happy chessing. Enjoy.